Welcome back to DAGryffyn Hobby. My name's Dave. In this video, I'm going to be adding lights to this Corgi GM bus. When I was visiting the Nassau Lionel operating engineers layout, they had a few buses that were illuminated, and I just absolutely loved the way they looked. I have this Lionel City bus and 2 or 3 public service buses. I didn't want to start with the public service bus. I figured I'd start with this Lionel one. At first, I was just going to do headlights, but then I decided I was going to do interior lights too. So I did headlights, interior lights, and added people to the bus. I'd say I'm about halfway through this project, and I have not filmed up until this point because I really didn't know what I was going to be doing. It's been pretty much an experiment, and trying to film things like that is usually pretty tough. We've got the seats here, and I glued some random people in. This lady had to lose her legs. This guy 1 foot, but the rest I tried to position in such a way that they would not be amputated. But I tried to position people so that you would actually see them through the windows. I mean, I could put more in, but I think this is good enough to convey the idea. Also, I didn't put a driver because that seat is just, it's not molded in a way that would really allow me to put a driver in without chopping everything off from the waist down. I was thinking that it was going to be sitting at a station, but now I'm thinking it's probably going to be on the road somewhere. And if that's the case, I need a driver. So I guess I do have to cut somebody off at the waist and stick them in there. I'll have to do that. But I just hot glued them in place and figured, you know, if I feel like moving any of them, it'll be easy enough. And if I don't, they'll be fine where they are. For the base, I just drilled a hole on a smooth part so I could feed the wires through it. For the lighting, I hot glued a couple of LEDs to the roof and ran the wires out the back. For the headlights, it was a little more difficult. There were lenses in here and also fake lenses in these 2 spots. And these lenses that were in these 2 spots were pegs that went through the front and into this portion to hold the front in place. So that was really difficult to get apart. I had broken one of them trying to remove the bottom. They weren't going to work as headlight lenses anyway, so I popped them out from the inside. There was a tab that stuck through, so I cut the tab, and then I used this punch, placed the front of the bus on this soft foam, and just gave it a couple of taps, and it popped the piece out. And that piece is this little lens here. It's blue on the back, so I wouldn't be able to shine light through it. But this had a little peg on it, and that's what kind of held the front in place. So I took 3mm LEDs, these Eve model LEDs. I've used these a lot. They come with a resistor already soldered in, and I've really had no complaints with these. I've used them for all sorts of things, both the 3mm and the 5mm ones. They're a good thing to have on hand in case you might be doing some lighting. In the package, they're nice and straight, and I just took them and bent them as close as I could to the lens, and bent it at a 90-degree angle, and then put them in place. And actually, before I put them in place, I had to take a drill bit and make that hole in there a little bit wider so that the LEDs would fit through and look kind of like lenses. And then I just hot glued them down. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to route them. To get this bus apart, there's 1 screw in the middle. The only thing that holds is it holds it to this interior. On the back, you have 2 kind of rivets. And I didn't use the proper size drill bit. I used too small of a drill bit. So when I was done, these spots are all kind of, well, a mess. If I had done it well, I think with a bigger drill bit to really get the head off the rivet better, I would have been able to like center punch them and maybe even tap them for a screw. But since this is my first attempt, I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm going to get all the wires set, fed through the bottom, put the bus together, and probably just hot glue the thing back together. Because it's not like I'm going to be playing with it, you know, it's a static model, so I'm not too concerned about it being really tough. Besides, I might want to take it apart again later anyway, so I'm okay with it just being glued together. The next time I do it, I'm going to drill these out a little bit different and hopefully be able to tap them and screw them back together, because that would be the ideal. Also ideal would be some other way of attaching the front, because these are in the way. I'm going to have to break these off so that I can route the LEDs. Between the glue in the back and that screw and just the weight of the model, it will hold down and be fine. And if not, I'll throw a little hot glue up front and it will be fine. So it's ready to go back together. You can see the interior is already put in, and I've got the wires connected and kind of all hot glued into place. Whenever I do a project like this, I like to try to do it in a way where I can easily take things back apart without having to desolder and de-glue things. But that really didn't seem to happen with this one. I added a driver. I had to chop off a good half of his body to get him into that seat, and I had to cut part of the steering wheel so that it would fit. But it gives you the idea that somebody's actually driving the bus, so it works for me. The taillights are cast in place. There's no hole there, and it's not important enough for me to go and try to drill it out to make it work. So I just did the headlights. You'll see that I used black hot glue. If you use the clear hot glue, that acts like a lens and will carry the light through everything. But the black hot glue really does a good job of stopping the light transfer, so you won't get light shining out the bottom of the bus. So I got the wires coming down from the interior lights and then the wires for the headlights. I did verify that it's all properly wired. I've got the hole I drilled in the bottom of the base, so I'm just going to feed the two wires through it. I'll line the base up and put that one center screw in that goes into the interior of the bus. This is enough to hold the bus together, that one screw onto the interior. It will sit fine, and it's a heavy piece, so it's not going to be an issue, at least that I see. So at this point, it's ready for the wire connector or final wiring. What I've been doing is using these little connectors that I got off of Amazon, and I have them just long enough to, help me place the vehicle. And I'm powering them by an old phone cord with a USB connector on one side, and I cut the lightning connector off the other side because it wasn't charging phones anymore. When you cut these, you'll see there are 4 wires inside. I believe a red, a black, a white, and a green. The white and the green are each like 2.2 volts or something like that. The red and the black is 5 volts, and that's what you want. So I attach the connector to the red and the black, and then this end of the connector to the bus, and then I can just plug it in and then power this from any, USB jack, 5-volt plug, anything like that. Long term, it's not the best plan because I would have, 30 USB plugs under the layout. But for now, it enables easy testing and setup. At some point, these won't be used anymore, and I will run all these wires from any lighted vehicles to a roughly 5-volt power source. I'll solder the connector on, and then we'll see how it looks. So the bus is all connected. See, the headlights are nice and bright. It's a little hard on the camera to see into the bus, but I've got the 2 LEDs in there illuminating the passengers. I want to point out that because of the black hot glue, you don't see any light coming out of the wheel well or the bottom of the bus. First couple I had done, you would be able to see the light shining through the bottom of the vehicle, and that just doesn't look right. Depending how I focus, you can see the headlights, you can kind of see the people inside. I think we need to see what this looks like with the lights out. Not all that dark in here. I've got some light coming through the windows. But you can see the headlights are nice and bright, especially when you're looking head on right into it. I sort of see the driver in there. I wish I could get a better focus here, but I think the illumination inside the bus is pretty good, and you can tell there are people in there, and that was kind of the idea. Okay, I tried to block the headlights so maybe we could see inside. Now, the reason I wanted to do this, other than to start adding some light to the layout, on the Nassau Lionel Operating Engineers layout, they had a few buses that were illuminated, and I just absolutely loved it, so I figured I had to try it. This thing had LED lighting in it, but it wasn't working. I tried to fix it, it didn't work. I couldn't get my own LEDs in there. I'll probably try again later, but for the time being, I put 2 people in there and an internal light. So I think that's a nice effect too. I can have this sitting somewhere and the people inside are, I think they're arguing, I'm not really sure. But that's kind of super white and bright, so a yellowish light would be better, but not bad for a first try. I had also added lights to this Mustang here. Just headlights. Long-term, headlights and taillights would be great. Interior lights in some situations. But for the time being, I'm just kind of trying to experiment with different vehicles, see what challenges they present and ways to overcome them. So far, the biggest help has been the black hot glue. That really, really helps minimize any light transfer to places you don't want it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on DAGryffyn Hobby.